restaurant with good service and tablecloth.
As long as it's got a tablecloth.
Yeah.
That's
Hilarious.
old school. That's old school Guinea.
100%.
Okie dokie. Welcome everybody to another episode of Not For Nothing. We had a false start before, and now we're going to start over. So I am in what one may consider upstate New York, depending on what part of New York you're from. And I'm going to let my next guest introduce himself.
I'm Ralph Giordano from Westchester County, New York. Yorktown Heights, to be specific, is where we are now. And I used to work for Joe, so I got all the insider information.
All the insider information, my ass.
Although it's out there.
The best part is it's not a lot, so it doesn't really matter. So why don't you give a brief history? So when I met you, it was...
Oh God!
It was a long time ago.
Sophomore year of college.
Yeah, and I started tattooing you first, right?
Yeah, it's 21 years now, if you can believe that, which is fucking nuts. I always say it's the most important internet search I ever did.
Oh, that was an actual internet search.
I just was looking for a guy to do pinups. And you kept popping up, and I was like, oh, he's in New Haven, Connecticut. And I was so naive to tattoos back then. I mean, what was it, 2004, maybe?
It was short. I know it was shortly after we opened up.
At the downtown location, which I still miss. That place was great.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
But, it was, I was like, he's in New Haven. But at that time, I legitimately thought good tattoos were like an expensive painting. Like $50,000, to get something cool.
And that's funny because that was at a time that really wasn't a thing.
I just got out of art school, so I come from a teacher who's like, yeah, my cheapest portrait's $50,000, and it goes up to, and he was showing me a $500,000 painting he was working on. It was nice, but I was like, what's this lady painting?
So I remember the artist that the teacher in which you're speaking of, Alethea, is was a huge fan of his work. His work was actually on the cover of an old Tattoo Time, one of the Ed Hardy Tattoo Times, one of the Sacred Hearts.
Oh, Thomas. Tom. Well, Tom was the man the whole way through. I had a portrait teacher, too, who thought he was the shit.
Oh, that's the guy you were talking about.
Yeah, Tom took me under his wing junior year. He was like, hey, man, he's like, my good friend Don. And I'm like, Don? And he's like, yeah, Don Ed Hardy. I was like, yeah. Your good friend Don, just drop that like it's fucking nothing. I mean, obviously people now just think of him as a clothing dude, but it's like, he gave me a hat. He's like, I'm never going to wear it. And to me, it was the coolest thing in the world. And then every fucking douchebag celebrity in the world started wearing it. And it became kitschy and weird. But he took me under his wing, and he was one of the greatest guys I've ever known.
Yeah, he was relatively heavily tattooed. Alethea was a huge fan of his work. I don't know if it was because of the cover art that he had done for that old.
He also did Mike Malone's portrait, which was in Mike Malone's book. If you go to the back of Mike Malone's book.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the portrait. He did that portrait for him.
I have that book. I never even noticed that.
Yeah, because he worked with Mike and Don in Hawaii.
Yeah, and just being around the scene and the whole time. And he was the one you said that kind of... Did he not tell you, like, maybe you should look into getting into tattoos? Or?
Oh, he was the one who pushed me hard. Because my comic book teachers definitely did not. Because that's like becoming an A-list celebrity. You're not making it in the comic world. There's 7 dudes doing every book, and... I was
I think nowadays you would have to take you'd have to be okay with just doing a small bit on a comic and then hopefully pick up
inking a background for 2 years, and then maybe because I had Klaus Janson was one of my teachers too, and we all know he did Dark Knight Returns, he inked that, he inked basically everything Frank Miller ever did outside of like the 300 in Sin City. And he even pushed me towards it because he was like, you like to focus on singular images. He's like, comics are driving you nuts because I would put so much attention on one page. And it's annoying, man. It sucks drawing those things. You get a script like a movie and I got to decipher this thing. I'm not an actor.
Well, I think it's also what your actual love is for. I mean, comic books, it can very much, you could look at yourself as like a struggling director. You know what I mean? For someone who's able to lay out comic books. I mean, you have to think in a certain way. And if you don't have it, I think you can fake it like everything else, but to fake
Frank
it
Miller
and
kind of does it a little bit. I'm going to say this online, but he's awesome. He created some of the best comics I've ever read, but his art is very specific. Like, I saw pages he gave to my teacher, and they'd be like, oh, Electra in a circle. And that's why the teacher loved inking his shit.
Because
he would half draw everything.
He could do a lot. Well, again, I think that was part of the... I think you as a penciler or of that caliber, where they know their name is selling the comic.
100%.
You know what I mean? And that was Miller's big thing. And Miller did do some amazing shit back in the day. The old Daredevils and fucking, Ronin. So much really, really good stuff. But the fact of the matter is, it really, it was his. I don't want to say his presence, but it was his stardom is what really made Dark Knight, and the fact that he relaunched the Dark Batman.
But
also,
there
was so much.
What he did with Superman too. He was the first guy to kind of be like, "Fuck this guy." You know what I mean? I'm gonna make a few series, and I'm just gonna fuck this dude up, and I don't give a shit what you people think. You know what I mean? Batman's gonna take down this indestructible figure.
Again, that's the beauty of being a writer who people want to see their stuff.
Yeah.
And read their comics. So it's like he had the power to do that kind of stuff, and everybody they weren't going to be mad about it. They were going to be, holy shit, look what he just did.
Well, he was DC's kind of like. I want to say he was a golden boy because Jim Lee is probably more of a golden boy.
Yeah, he's definitely
character.
not a golden boy.
Yeah, but they were like, no, fuck it, fine. You want to do it? It's Elseworlds.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's not canon.
Yeah.
But we'll let you do it. But it was a weird world to be in for like 2-3 years.
The comic book
because it is so fucking demanding.
And you're also you were really young. You were what, 22?
I was
21?
17 going into college.
But what year did this conversation take place?
Oh god, I was maybe 19.
Okay, so you were really
I was
young.
a baby. Yeah, I mean, and then it's funny because then I remember I switched over to illustration back. Because I went illustration comics and back to illustration, and I had a class with this DC editor in my senior year, and I did a comic for him. And he was like, "Where the fuck was this guy 3 years ago?" And I was like, "He wasn't here." I don't know what to tell you. I was like, "Now I'm happy with what I'm doing,
right?"
And I wasn't treating this as a script. You let me do what I wanted to do, and this is what I wanted to do. And it was definitely better,
right.
You know, they all used to get a kick out of me because I was like, I just want to do Mafia Hitman and. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're like typical fucking New Yorker, like
so Guinea. It was fucking crazy.
Well, you're from a pretty traditional Italian household, and I mean nothing wrong with that. I grew up in a very similar.
I mean, you come from Long Island, you come from Pelham Bay. That's the way it was.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the best way to put it. It's the way it is. It's the way it was.
100%.
I mean, it's still like that for a lot of families and a lot of people.
Oh God, I mean, half the people around here. I mean, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these kids I tattoo now, younger, they are going back to being like traditionalists. It's weird.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I look at my cousins on the island, and their kids are just moving out. They're about to get married. They were able to live at home until they can afford a home, the house of their own. They get ready to get married. They're moving. They're doing it in a very traditional manner. I'd love to think it's the right way to do it, and I mean, realistically, I think it is because most of my cousins are all still together. They have many kids together. It's like, they're pretty traditional. They still get together on the weekends and stuff. So.
Well, that's like me. I mean, now that I moved home, from Connecticut when I was with you guys, I mean, my mom's in here every 5 minutes. She'll come in probably halfway during this freaking thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
But it's. I tell every young kid I tattoo, I'm like, stay home till they kick you out. Just stay home until your parents are like, you have to get the fuck out of here. But you can't have a nicer car than me. You know what I mean? Like, you have to leave.
Exactly. When you have a nicer car than I do, then you need to go.
100%. Like, my mom would take me back in 5 minutes, even at 40, with 39. And my dad's like, don't you fucking do it. And I'm like, Dad, I get it. I know.
Well, okay. Well, so now you're basically... Your college professors are the ones that are telling you should maybe not consider this and maybe get into tattooing.
Oh, Tom pushed me hard.
So I started tattooing. How old were you when you got tattooed by me?
I was 18.
And you had nothing on you at all?
I had this thing.
You had that crap on your forearm, right? Yeah. I remember that. Yeah,
it was tough.
So and the whole point was I did a Marilyn Monroe portrait on
this is
on
21 years old.
Nice.
I don't know if you see it. Shows what line work can do when you guys put line work in, it stays.
Well, I remember you asking me for that, and I was just kind of like, I don't really want to do a portrait of Marilyn. It's like, and you wanted a full body on a forearm, and
it was yeah.
But I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think it worked out really well, and the fact that it's still in there, it's solid, yeah. And that was in 2004.
Yeah, literally, I was a sophomore in college. I graduated 03, 04. Yeah.
Now, was it at that point that you had asked me about the apprenticeship?
It was probably about a year later.
And what did we start doing on you then? We had been working mainly.
We were knocking out this arm, but I remember I jumped a lot. Like, we were working on my chest while we were working on my ribs, while we were working on my leg. I mean, it was a lot, but...
Ralphie was what you call a perfect fucking client back in the day. Because he booked appointments on the regular, and he showed up on the fucking dime. Like, he did not
I could sit
fuck
back
around.
Yeah. I sat back.
Oh, and you could say, you sat really
decent.
well. There were some of the things I hated tattooing on you.
Yeah.
Like that fucking spawn.
Which might be one of your best tattoos ever.
I don't... Fuck off. Fuck off.
100%. You know how many people
not my
go,
favorite.
Joe did that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, Joe does whatever the fuck you tell him to do.
Yeah,
it's just, you people think he's just doing pinups all day. I go, no, I made him do Spawn. I made him do Angela. I made you do Leatherface.
Yeah, you've got some horror portraits from me. You've got a bunch
Michael
of...
Myers, which is one of my favorite ones. Yeah. But, it's different back then, too, though. Like, the whole joy for me walking into the tattoo shop was not knowing what the fuck was happening. It was like, I give you the idea, like, because I got clients now who are like, can you send me stuff 3 weeks in advance? No, I'm not. I'm sorry.
Well, dude, that's a thing that I'd never had to do until recently. And now it's, like, again, one of the issues that I've had over the past probably 10, 12 years is how dramatically we've had to change the way we do business. And it drives me fucking crazy. And I've said this a million times, and I'm sure it's going to offend a lot of people. But it's one of those things where we as shop owners and tattooers have lost a lot of control. I'd say 98% of the control that we had with our shops and the way clients reach out to us and the way in which, appointments are made and the way in which, what we suggest for the designs and kind of get, people boycott the design because that's not what they've seen and they want their own version of whatever. And
sometimes it's not even the own version.
No, it's something they've already seen elsewhere.
Well, I say all the time, I do a lot of animal portraits. I'm like, guys, you're showing me a portrait of a tiger. They exist. Go online, type in the word tiger. You're going to probably find the reference that was used for the tattoo that you like. I'm more comfortable doing that off the reference than the actual design.
So what they're basically sending you is photographs of other people's tattoos.
Yeah, it's a rose. They exist. It's not a dragon. You want to show me a tattoo of a dragon? I get it. They don't exist.
Well, it's one of those things when people show you that and then you come up with your own version of it. Like yesterday I had to do a Christ head. And the guy sent me, 2 of the heads were identical and they were all from other people's tattoos. 3 of the tattoos were nearly identical because they're all based off the same reference.
Probably a Bernini statue or something.
No, it wasn't even that. It was from a. It wasn't a mask card, but it was from an image or whatever. And what I immediately did was started looking up reference. And now you go online, a lot of the references is all AI. It may have been a Bernini, and now it's not. And this looked almost like a pencil drawing that AI had created based off of a sculpture. So but now I'm looking at all these Christ heads and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to pick what Christ head this guy gets because it's on him. So he should have a say in what he's going to get. But I ended up putting together a bunch of different stuff, and I did the line drawing.
You do more than one.
Well, so
you're like a double design guy.
Yeah. Well, because to me, I don't want to not be prepared for when the client comes in.
Yeah.
So with this, I ended up I did the line drawing of the one that I thought would look the best on it because he's not a big guy. And I pulled the reference of the other stuff. Same thing with because he's doing Virgin Mother, Christ Head, Cross, or Sacred Heart, and everything. So basically, I pulled a bunch of reference and said, okay, this is the Christ Head I would recommend. But if you like either one of these, then let's go for this. But if you do, and again, and then said with the Virgin Mother, same thing. When this gets on there, we see what it looks like, and then you're going to decide which of the Virgin Mothers you want, or I'll give you an advice on which one I think would work.
Well, and I said it always comes down to the same thing. I show people what I want to do, what I think will look best. But I always say the same thing. If I can make it look good, I'm going to make it look good. And it's not on me, it's on you, man. It's just, I can say so much, but if you're not okaying it, I don't have to wear it.
Right.
That's my number. How often I say I don't have to wear it.
Right.
It's you got to wear it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to be happy with it because I want you to show it off.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I think so when people come up, and that's one of the things like where I like to be prepared before they come in. But I try to have as much ready for them when they do come in. So I do understand when they come in with just a photo of somebody else's tattoo because they go, well, this is what I want. This is what I want it to look like. Then it comes down to you to say, okay, you got to trust me a little bit. Let's work with what you're giving me and let me throw some reference together. And then this is what we're going to come up with.
Well, also, you see my stuff. You know what I do. When you come to me, you have to at least have some type of realistic expectation that this is what I do. If you're trying to tell me to get out of the realm, I'll do it for you. But obviously, what I put together is going to be more in lines with what you've seen on all your friends, what you've seen on the internet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because all the internet is for, at least for me at this point, is like an online portfolio.
Well, it used to be.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't post enough anymore. There's certain people that are amazing about it. I mean, they're creating reels. It's like a whole secondary job. Yeah. And there's people who hire people for that now. Like, I know tattooers that hire people to handle their social media. I've talked to people about it.
Well, I know a friend of mine down in Virginia, they just hired a social media person with the intention of that same thing. Yeah. And they're putting a lot of content. From an outsider's perspective, looking in, I can't see what kind of if it's had a positive effect on their profiles. And I've been meaning to have a conversation with her and say, hey, how's that working out for you? You know?
Yeah, how's the $500 a month you're spending?
Exactly.
For this,
well, I think with this, the person gave them a deal based on the fact that they knew they were taking that both people were taking a big chance.
Yeah, I talked to one guy. He was like, we have packages, $250, $350, $450. And I was like, dude, what are you really doing for me? He's like, we're getting you proper engagement. I said, well, what's proper engagement? Are people texting me, asking me for appointments? Because my cell phone's not a mystery. You know what I mean? It's on my page.
Right.
Text me.
Yeah.
Get
and dude, you would imagine, like, so I've had people reach out to me through social media, and I'm like, I check that when I'm done tattooing.
Yeah.
Like, and usually when I've got nothing else going on or I'm about to post some stuff, like, I don't check my social media messages. I mean, I tell people to DM me, but that's for like a day or two later, not for like the moment. So if you do want to reach out to somebody, you do got to do it through our shop, which is something we do. Or like you said, if you're making
you got TIFF there, which makes it.
Well, and that's the whole point. The management is like, that's the reason why we have a manager. You know what I mean? I don't do it for shits and giggles. I do it so there's somebody there on the front line that's going to talk to people when they call.
And direct contact's important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know tattooers won't give out their cell. They won't even get their personal email. Personal email I get, but have an email set up. You can get a phone number from Google.
Yeah.
Let people text you. Because people like direct connection nowadays.
Again, that's something I never thought I would. That's a road I never thought I would go down, but it's something that I have no choice, because it's like things have to change in a way that that people can have an easier time contacting me.
Anything customer service now? I mean, not to say. I mean, I think my apprenticeship was a little bit more traditional. I worked at a busy walk-in shop. They were just opening. They were open for 2 weeks. They needed me. They needed me for probably cheap labor as much as they needed, or free labor, as much as they needed me to fucking start tattooing and put some progress.
Well, okay, so let's go back to that. We jump way ahead. We didn't even jump ahead. We're just running circles to get to ahead.
Yeah.
When I'm tattooing, you basically said, "Hey, I want to apprentice. Like, I want to apprentice under you." And I straight up was like, "Absolutely not. I'm not interested."
You said it's not the right shop. And you were right.
Well, exactly, right. And that's a thing like I've often said, because we were on a second floor. At that time there was four of us.
Yeah.
And we're a custom shop. We weren't a private studio because anybody can walk in, but I guess it was the beginning of what would be considered a private studio. But the second you add a flight of stairs, you eliminate half of people walking in.
Well, you separate. I always wanted a storefront. I like this shop. I mean, we're in right now. What is it, 300 square feet? 350.
This place is tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Cute. It's really cute.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I needed. And then Corey, who works for me, was kind of like a pie in the sky thing for me. People are like, "Would anyone work with you?" And I'm like, "There's one guy." I go, "But I'm not going to poach anyone," which happens nowadays, and it's fucked up. And I'll put it out there. You don't call other tattoo shops trying to rip their artists. If you put it out there that you're hiring and someone contacts you, it's one thing. Right. You don't rip people's artists. I'm sorry. It's just, there's got to be some sort of civility.
No, it's funny. It's not only in this trade. It's like I've got friends in the restaurant industry that went through a very similar situation where, a place is opening up and then they start making phone calls around, and before you know it, like, you know what's happening, an hour away, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to be leaving. I got to give 3 weeks notice.
Yeah, where's half my kitchen staff?
Yeah, exactly. Where are you going? You know? So it is.
Well, I mean, that's like I have tattoo shops right around me that opened up after I opened up. And, it's also like the community-based thing in this industry has kind of been lost.
Oh, it's completely lost. I don't think it doesn't exist. That's not true.
No. I mean, Westchester, it's funny enough, us here, like I have my friend Giordano across town. She's amazing. Me and her talk. She has great artists working for her. She came in here when she opened up. She introduced herself to me. It was amazing. Another guy I know, Dan, he opened up about 20 minutes away. People opened up, but, like, we know each other. It's like I send people to Dan. I send people to Gianna. I send people to Big Joe and Sons off of Mohegan Lake all the time.
Right.
You know, because it's like if we all can eat, everyone eats. You know what I mean? Especially because it's only 2 of us here.
Well, not
and
to
they
mention
have
the
6,
fact
7
that
guys.
not to mention the fact there's only so much you can do unless you're going to be the kind of tattooer and shop that everything that comes in has to walk out leaving a deposit. And again, I'm not begrudging anybody that. If that's the kind of shop you're in, you know, I get it. It's feast or famine sometimes, you know what I mean? But when you can have a community of individuals, like, you know, whether you host an art show or somebody else hosts an art show and then they ask you to take part, that's a pretty big deal.
You know, I mean, and that's a sense of community. It really makes sense.
Right.
It's like, why would you alienate the people around you? I mean, if it was 1985 and, you know, a tattoo shop opens up and they're breaking the fucking guy's hands, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, now you can't work because you opened down the street.
Well,
and that's the way it used to be.
It's
You know?
can't say that out loud no more because
Yeah,
apparently
I mean-
nobody understands that there used to be a fucking
I-
much darker part to this industry. When I made comments about that, about if you're bringing in 12 apprentices and all you're doing is opening up 12 more shops when your apprentices get fed up with your shit and they move on, you're not closing the shops around you, you're building more shops. And everybody's like, well, what do you mean closing the shops? And it's like, well, literally putting other shops out of business. And nobody could understand where I was coming from. And I'm like, no, man, there was a time where if somebody opened up street and they didn't speak to you,
Oof.
you broke their windows, you know, I don't want to say firebomb, but I've heard stories.
I mean, I know broken hands. I've had some pretty tough guys walk into our shop in a group and be like, hey, we heard you were talking shit about us. We were not talking shit about you guys. You know, it was the opposing shop going, fuck them, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, it was scary. And then I was young and naive. I was like, hey, guys, you want to get tattooed? And it's like these guys like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill you, man.
And funny enough, in that, it's one specific instance and I'm thinking in my head, but funny enough, all the guys wound up being cool.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like,
I honestly
yeah.
think that from the standpoint of like, there's a lot of bravado, you know, man. But don't get me wrong, there's a lot of gangster out there as well. So, but a lot of times it is more bravado than it is, you know, like straight up hatred. You know what I mean? Like, or just gangster. You know what I mean? But yeah, and then you get to know people and you go, oh, he's not a bad guy. Like, what the fuck? How have we not been friends? But it's getting past that
Well,
thing.
I mean, and also it's preconceived notions of people. Like one of the best conventions I ever worked at was with you when we were in Grado or Trieste,
Trieste.
and that was a Hell's Angels convention.
Well, so the thing is,
and it was amazing.
Yeah, conventions
Yeah.
in Europe, a lot of them, and I don't know if it's still like this, but a lot of them are HA run. They're all bike club
It
run.
was, dude, like a guy came up to me. I still remember this. Hey, Mr. Giordano, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great. How you doing? He's like, you want a coffee or something like that? I'm like, I really need to get to the bathroom. And I'm like, it takes like 30 minutes to get there. He's like, I'll get you there. And
Yeah,
this
they
guy-
walk you-
dude,
walk
it
you
was
through.
unbelievable. It was the best convention I ever did.
All the
And
shows,
it was beautiful.
especially way back in the day, because we had so many preconceived notions of what it was like to be a biker and what it was like to be in biker run shops, that like where I grew up on Long Island, like the outlaws were pagans, were a big deal.
Yeah.
HA became a big deal, like especially on the east end of the island, where before it was more Nassau County. So I knew to steer clear. Like I didn't want to be involved. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a biker. I'm not into that lifestyle, and I'm a dork from Long Island. I don't want to deal with this shit. So we never really had to. But when you go overseas and you see it, you're like, wow, motherfuckers are different here. And I'm not saying there ain't ill shit going on there.
No,
I
of
just
course,
don't.
yeah.
I've never seen
But
it.
I mean, it was probably the best run convention I was ever at.
A lot of the European shows, I think, up until probably the last 18 years, 15 years here, those were probably the best shows I'd ever done. And then, you know, you have the Hell Cities and a bunch of other shows.
Well, I mean,
here.
Derb just knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and he's had several years to hammer out the
Did he stop during COVID? Did they stop during
They
COVID?
stopped for, I think they missed a year.
That's not that
year and a
bad.
half. No, not bad. Not bad at all.
Well, I mean, now, if you want to work conventions, I mean, you can go to 3 this weekend, 2 next weekend, and
Oh, this
you know
is
what I mean?
too much.
It's just
This is too
it's
much.
diluted. Back in the day, it was a treat. You went to Philly, there was 700 booths, and there was talent everywhere. Enter that show, good luck. You know what I mean? It was
and that's
just,
again
yeah.
like now when I used to do Philly was 150 booths.
Yeah.
When it was Eddie, and then it was Eddie and Billy, and then once I think Troy got his hands on it, then it just turned into a.
Well, Troy
shit
was
show.
like the convention master.
Well, he's
You know,
become
he just,
like
you
he's
know.
like the P.T. Barnum of tattoo
Yeah.
conventions, and you know what? I would never hold it against him. Well, I do, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. So you start working at. So you
Made money at those conventions.
How did you end up getting your apprenticeship?
I mean, I think it was dumb luck a little bit. I mean, like people I'd been introduced to were opening up a shop. I kind of put myself directly up their ass as much as I could. You know, I went by the shop once or twice a week. I was in art school. Here's my portfolio. Hey, do this. Okay, here's my portfolio. 2 weeks later. Hey, do this. Week later. You know, the best way to get it, I mean, I don't know about now, but it was you make yourself a staple in that shop. Get tattooed by them. Go see them. You know, make it like I'm here. You're not going to get rid of me whether you like it or not. You kind of like me.
Yeah.
Now let's push this farther. You know, you're going to walk into shops that are going to stonewall you.
Well, and again, that's understandable, especially when you've decided to come in and ask for an apprenticeship and you don't even know who owns the shop. You don't know the names of anybody there. You've never given a dime to that shop. You know, why would they, you know, even if you brought your portfolio in, but you still have to break that ice. So it's like, if breaking the ice was, hey, are you guys taking apprentices?
Yeah.
That's not going to cut it for most places.
It's like taking on a kid.
Like I'm polite in most cases, and I go, yeah, listen, we don't do that, and you might want to reconsider the way you go about that. And then
I was trying to give people information. I had 2 people call me up in the last few months, and I'm just kind of like, listen, like this isn't for you. Here, it's a 2-person shop. We're on the outskirts of town. I built this place to not have walk-ins. I built it so we could relax, and we get them here and there. You know, there's the San Gennaro Festival. Yeah, people walk in, right? But it's just, you have to. I lucked out that the first couple places I went to, one took me. But I have friends of mine that looked for a year and a half.
Well, I think also, I think you got to consider the fact that you got into this early in the early 2000s, where now, and the flip side of that coin is now there's a lot more tattoo shops. And the fact is, I use this phrase a lot, but I say the bar has been lowered on how easy it is to get into the business and how many apprentices people take on and the quality of the individual that they decide to apprentice because they want a body in the shop.
Well, I mean, how funny was it? I mean, there was that guy that was online back in the day. I remember we all hated him. They were doing that tattoo program before these garbage schools opened up. Yes, garbage schools. He was like, yeah, trace some pretty pictures and you can make $200,000 a year. Remember that advertisement?
Yeah.
And it drove me fucking nuts. You know what I mean? It was just like, no, that's not the way it works. You know what I mean? You have to get to know every client. You have to get to know every skin style. I mean, you've been tattooing for 10 years. You don't even know how your shit ages.
Right. Well, and again, that is a legitimate thing. Like you have to have some clue as to way things are good. And again, that comes with time in, or you listen to the people around you, and when they say, "Hey, I've done that before. It's probably not going to last." And again, you can look at it from the perspective of, well, that guy's an asshole. I've seen his work. I don't appreciate what he does, whatever. I get that. There's always going to be a little bit of that. But you need to have that little nugget in the back of your head.
Yeah, I mean, you take bits and pieces from everybody around you. And if you want to get good at tattooing, here's a thought. I mean, Nico, he'll be popular forever. The guy probably just got 50 emails with me mentioning his name. But, like, you want to get a tattoo by him? Go get a tattoo by him. And watch him. I guarantee you if you ask Nico a question, he's going to go, I did this like this, I did this like that. And that's how I approached it back in the day. Yeah. I was in your shop once or twice a month for about 10 years
and straight. I'm sure you were going into everybody's room and picking... And nobody in our shop, like Eric, Julio, Tim, nobody would be like, can you ask
You used to have to pull me out of rooms.
Yeah.
Ralph, we're starting now. I'm like, oh, okay, we're starting.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
But again, I think back then, too, it was so exciting to be in a shop like that because to me, I worked with the people that I consider to be as good, if not better, and everybody just did. They brought themselves to the table, and you couldn't help but admire and love it. So
I mean, well, that was, to me, it was like every room was so different, but experienced. You know, I mean, I remember I was there. Tim had first got hired when I was there, and then I remember meeting Phil before he was even a thought.
Right, he started getting tattooed by Eric.
Got that sleeve done. Yeah. And it was just like, he's like, yeah, I think he said to me, like, better to pay for a sleeve than buy a car. I'm like, I guess, dude. I mean, you probably need to get around, but I get what you're saying. You know what I mean? And it was just, it was fun, and it was different, and it was busy, and it was...
we were working 6 days a week, you know, two appointments a day, like we were busy. I mean, it was also a great time to be in that situation. We were a brand new shop in a city that I don't think had really seen a situation like what we had built.
Well, and near everything.
Yeah, well, that's
yeah.
again. It was nice to be in between Boston and New York. You know what I mean?
I mean,
That's a big
I
deal.
still have people from Boston that come to me. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hilarious. Rhode Island, you know, because that was like, you know, like the equivalent of me getting people from Connecticut to Westchester.
Right.
Now I'm in Connecticut. Now I'm getting people that are.
Well,
you know.
you had a really good transition from. So you start tattooing at Addicted.
Yeah.
How long did your actual apprenticeship last? I mean, was it?
It was August to January.
So
was
it
like
was
till I picked up a
relatively-
machine.
Right.
And then I picked up a machine. They threw me to the fire because they needed people.
I think back
Yeah.
then too, you know, shops like I said the same thing about mine. Mine was 4 weeks, 2 weeks of no machine and just doing everything, and then 2 weeks of with a machine and doing everything. But I only did 13 free tattoos, and then one night I got the call up saying, "Okay, you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I want to do this," you know. And it was money from there. And
It was also doing everything.
right.
That's
Well,
the
but
difference,
again, you have to. Because it's a street shop, and there wasn't the option of being a custom guy.
No, not
in
even
the
a
early
little bit.
2000s. But it was also that's what pretty much gets you all these little skill sets that you wouldn't have otherwise. You know what I mean?
You learn how to fill in black on a tribal. I guarantee you can fill in color on something else.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, it was a busy shop. We were there till, I mean, some of the best nights of my life. We were there till 4 a.m.
I remember you saying that was that was one of those shops. Yeah. Well, especially being where you were right in Westchester, downtown Westchester.
Yeah, it was White Plains. So we were right near the train. We were right near where the schools let off.
Yeah.
And we had kids from Purchase coming. We had kids from Rutgers coming. You know, we had kids from everywhere coming. And it was just, you know, guy walks in at 2 o'clock in the morning, you do it. You don't say anything about it, you do it. Every last tattoo turns into something bigger. You tattoo this guy's girlfriend, all of a sudden she tells the boyfriend, and then his friends tell their friends. I mean, it's laying a concrete base.
Yeah.
You know, I don't do much off internet anymore. It's word of mouth.
Well,
word of mouth
you
is
know,
going to hold
and that
you
was
over.
the one thing I guess I missed from New York when I left New York. I had that that diehard clientele for probably 15, 18 solid fucking years.
Yeah.
Where when I left New York, they came to, I went to New Hampshire. They were up there for 2 years. When I got closer to Connecticut, I picked up a lot more of my older clients. But again, the older you get, the more clients are finished or whatever. Their
you
kids,
finish it.
the
People
kids
only
don't
get a
have,
certain amount.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The kids don't have the same want to drive up to New York, drive up from New York. So I think that's probably one of the things. But I do miss that about New York was because all of your clients were these diehard fucking fans.
Oh, yeah.
That were all traveling every fucking week, taking a day off work, and you were working 6 days a week, 2 appointments a day, and then at the beginning when you came to work for us. You were going back and forth. I think almost a year you were going back and forth, right?
No, I lived in Milford.
I know, but you didn't move up there right away.
No, I was up.
Did you? I don't know.
Yeah, I was
For
up
some
right
reason,
up.
I thought you were.
I had that
commuting
apartment. That's
for a
why I
while.
needed it to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I was up pretty quick, and you know, I mean, I was worried. I will say this: like when I came home, I was like, "Oh my god, I haven't seen you in 6 years. I haven't seen you in 6 years." There was people,
Yeah.
but they were diehard.
Yeah.
You know, and it's weird now because now I'm tattooing the 5-year-old who was like, "Yeah, man, for 13 more years, and I'll finally see you." And now they're up here.
And now you're actually tattooing.
And now
them,
I'm tattooing them, and the dad brings them in, and the mom brings them in, and you know, I think word of mouth laying a base is the most important part. Internet could do a lot for you, but it does a lot for a small percentage, I think.
Right, exactly.
I think it's like people think it's like these delusions of grandeur, right? Like where you have 400,000 followers, all of a sudden you're going to be swamped. No, it's not true.
Well, I think what
You know?
people don't realize is 400,000 followers are worldwide. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
With people, like when I talk to friends of mine that aren't in this industry, that are into restaurant industry, whatever, and we start talking, and they're just like, "Well, dude, you have like 88,000 followers and blah 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 blah." And I'm like, A, that's not that much, and then B, those people are everywhere in the world.
Well, yeah, when they're going, man, I wish I could take that appointment, but I'm in Alaska.
Yeah, I mean,
no
I
shit,
probably
right?
get more of that than anything when I post something about having Saturday open. They're like, "Oh, dude, I wish." Okay, well then, I wish I could say don't clog up the fucking lines and just keep it to
Jump on a
yourself.
plane, dude.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like it's. I don't think people realize that, but I think that there is right now. I think there is a group of people that when they may not look at it from the standpoint of word of mouth, but they know that their reputations mean an awful lot, and that's something you're hearing. You realize that people understand that they know it's not just a matter of a social media presence. It really is like you tattooed him, he's going to tell her, she's going to tell them, and then before you know it, this is all blown up, you know.
I mean, and that's the most important thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I know there's a kid in Poughkeepsie right now who's got like 1 million followers, and he's good. I'm not saying he's not good, but that kid is ripping the social media. I mean, he is putting up stuff every day. He's putting up all the different videos everyone loves to see, right? Where he's asking questions and he's talking about the tattoo industry and saying how he does things, and he's killing it. But then there's a guy over here who's got 300,000 followers, and he's maybe not putting up the same content, and he's sitting there going, hey, I have an availability for Tuesday, and it's, Sunday.
Right.
You know
exactly,
what I mean? It's tough. It's
dude, even with, like I said, what I've got going on, like I got tomorrow open, posted it up.
Yeah.
Nobody's seeing anything. I don't know what it takes anymore. I really don't. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like things evolve, and then they kind of like jump back down, and they evolve, and they jump back down. But it's I came home to where I'm from. That's part of the reason things have stuck with me.
Right.
I was fortunate as fuck to keep my people when I went up to you. But then I came home, and it kind of was like, like for instance, like I had the guy today, and we were doing this thing, and I was kind of like, hey man, like I'm done early. I'm like, you want to come in at like 2:30? He was like, yeah, I'll be right there. I couldn't do that when I was in Connecticut.
Right.
He's like, yeah, Ralph, I'll leave 10 minutes earlier. I was just about to leave anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an hour and a half drive to get there. And it was tough, and I did pick up a lot of great clients from Connecticut who are still with me, but it's. If you don't lay roots and you dance around, like I know people who've been in 20 shops.
Oh, I'm in a very similar situation. As long as, even though I've been in fucking Connecticut now nearly 25 years, it doesn't matter because I'm from New York. Like I've got people coming all the time. Oh, when are you gonna come? When are you coming back to New York?
I want you in Long Island.
It's like, dude, there's no fucking way. Yeah, everybody's asking me. I do. Just recently, I was talking to a guy. He's like, man, you gotta come back here, and I'm like, there's 1,000,001 shops on Long Island now. I don't even want to know what that looks like now.
The landscape down there is crazy.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, and it's all big money in Long Island now too,
Yeah.
which makes it harder.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Westchester, I'm not pulling people from like North Salem and Pound Ridge. I like a lot of my guys are blue collar guys and gals. You know what I mean? That's what keeps me eating, because you want to know what? When things go sour, they're still working.
Yeah.
And they are walking billboards, and they are so proud.
Yeah.
That's why I love New York, is because people, they're braggadocious here, man. Yeah. Now, your guy's not as good as my guy.
Well, there's a lot of...
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, like, look at my stuff, look at your stuff.
Yeah.
How old's yours? 5 years? Mine's 10 years. Look at yours.
It's like, we know who's got the better.
Yeah, I mean, and it's awesome. I'm like, yeah, do it for me.
And it's not even so much the tattoos. It's also it's like, we know my guy's better than your guy. It's not even like quality of the tattoos. Even, let's say... this guy's got a little tiny cross and this other guy's got a full sleeve. He's like, yeah, I get your sleeve, but, my guy's still better than yours.
Yeah. Come to him. I'll talk to him. We'll bring him into the shop.
Exactly.
And but it's just, it's changed so much so quick. I mean, I'm 18 years in now, so it's kind of like, and I'm still kind of young. That's the weird part about it, right? Like, this industry is so old. I mean, if you just go back to the 80s with, like, Michelle Wortman or people like that were in Manhattan that were doing it when it wasn't even legal. It didn't become legal in New York till the mid-90s.
Not Michelle Wortman. You're talking about Andrea and like...
no, who's the Fun City Daredevil?
Oh, Michelle.
Michelle.
It's not Wortman, though.
Oh, it's not Wortman. Okay.
Yeah.
I love her. I love her work.
Different person.
Yeah, okay. It's like some politician.
Yeah, I saw her. I saw her briefly in, whatchamacallit, in Virginia. Back in October, her and her shop was there, and Fun City's a great little. I mean, not Fun City, Daredevil tattoo.
Yeah, well, I think she owns both, doesn't she?
I don't think she owns.
I thought they were like sister shops or something like that.
Fuck, I don't remember.
Yeah,
you might be right. I don't know. If anybody knows, put it in the comments.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I don't remember. But it was great seeing her, running into her again. She runs a whole historic tattoo.
And she was on like the first TV show. She was on Tattoo Wars.
She did Tattoo Wars. Yeah. So
which was actually a good show.
Again, I think the problem with Tattoo TV back then was, I don't know if it's the same producers as they are who's doing Ink Master now, but you can tell the difference because they were trying to capture... First of all, they're doing it on the fly by putting it on at the New York convention, which is...
Well, every episode was a convention.
That's got to be... Because that's the easiest way to get everybody together. Yeah. And I understand that. But I think that's a fucking nightmare. And now you can't really control your environment. But I think it's a great thing to show off. To show
the chaos of a convention.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? People ask me why I don't work local conventions. I'm like, why am I going to do that to myself? Oh my God, I sit at a fucking folding chair at this table, cramped in this spot. I gotta tell my client, come up here, I'll hook you up, whatever it is, and be uncomfortable for the next 4 hours and watch 2,000 people stare at you while you're in pain.
Again, I think it takes a certain type of person that just wants to be part of that. They think that that's going to, and don't get me wrong, I think it does make it for a better experience. Like I've gotten tattooed at conventions 3 or 4 times, and I will honestly say it's eye candy. You're not dwelling. I mean, granted, they were my arms and legs, so it wasn't like a rib panel or a front or whatever.
My stomach and my throat done at a convention.
That's right.
Underneath my chin.
Yeah,
you can't see it right now, but yeah, my stomach and my throat. I mean, it was fun because people come over. It's kind of like looking at the kid in the.
Well, as I'm saying, there's a little bit of there's something to be said for that.
But there also used to be collectors. There used to be people who were known for collecting. It was this like whole subsection of the tattoo community.
That totally exists now. I mean, if anything, those collectors now have created a persona for themselves that they are like. Look at Yowzy. Look at there's a handful of them.
Well, there's that one guy that got the black with the fucking mouth, and who's that guy that keeps blacking out stuff and coloring over it?
Yeah, I don't know who the fucking guy is, but. I'd love to see him without a polarizing filter on.
It's like, dude, he's like, yeah, I'm touching up my sleeve for the 18th time. Yeah, no shit, dude.
Yeah, it's what I mean? It's one of those situations, and this is going to offend him, and I don't know what to say. Sorry,
sorry, pal.
But it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, dude, like if you had a tattoo done, there were artists that back in the day that were well known for what they did, and me and several other people were just not digging on what they did because we looked at it as, well, there's no real longevity with that kind of a tattoo because too much detail, it's too this, it's too that, it's too this. It's all the little like realism things that people bitch about even now, But this was being done 25 years ago, when it was unheard of, And
9,000 textures that are going to be gone in 5 years.
But the thing was, the difference between them and, say, someone like me, like, I'm going to do the tattoo once, and then we're done.
Yeah.
He's going to do that tattoo 9 fucking times. You know what
no
I mean?
problem.
And you could say he's being slow, but he's going over the tattoo over and over and over and over again. So I had one client of mine was getting tattooed by both of us. He had first started getting tattooed by me, and then he found out about this guy down south. He's going to go to him, so he starts getting work done from him, and it's literally taking, like, he's coming up to me, and I'm doing a chest panel in a session. He goes to him, and it takes, like, 7 sessions. And then he's coming to me, and we're doing something here. And he's belly aching about how much time he's spending in my chair. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm like, pardon? I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? Now, on top of that, I'm charging probably 1/10 of what he's charging the other guys.
Well, that's the other fucking thing.
But it was one of those things where it's like, I had to sit him down and be like, dude, this is 2 totally different styles of tattoo. If you like that more, go to him. I'm like, you can look at both of the tattoos that we've done. They're both great in their own fucking right. You know what I mean? But one is definitely different than the other. And to try to have to explain that drove me out of my fucking mind. So finally, I'm like, no, you can go to him now. I'm good. We're done.
I finish everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I mean, very rarely do I have to walk a person out the door, and I've done it a few times. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but, I don't think people realize that, like, we have best intentions. That's the other thing. It's like, I'm not telling you to do this because, hey, make it bigger. I'm telling you to make it bigger because it's going to hold up longer. And quite frankly, it's probably going to take me less time.
That's a big.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I've done a Coliseum this big that took me 3 hours. I've done a Coliseum this big that took me 3 hours. Yeah. They both paid the same fucking price.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, I'm not telling you to do this because I think it's going to make more money. I'm telling you to do this because it's going to last longer.
Well, I think again, but that's another situation where I say we've lost a little bit because people are going to come into us and they're going to go, well, I really like this done this way, and we're like, well, I don't do that because I feel it's too small. I don't think it's going to hold up very well, so I just refuse to do it. I don't want to do it. And they're like, well, he does it. And I'm like, well, then go to him.
Yeah, 100%.
And I have no problem with you going out of the shop and finding that person. And they're like, well, they're in fucking Italy. I'm like, well, then that's too fucking bad.
Yeah, wait for the convention to come by.
And again, that is one of those situations where I think that, people have to realize that when you go to certain individuals, like, again, I'll do anything. I mean, I'm not somebody who's not going to do something because, unless, like I said, I think it's too small or I don't like it.
It's just going to flat out look bad.
Yeah, like when you get something that's a phoenix, no outlines, and it's yellows and oranges and whites, on, you know, a regular skin tone person, and you go, yeah, it's not going to hold up. No back. Well, I don't want background. I'm like, but you need the background in order for that stuff to bounce off of.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to listen to you because they've seen it already. I'm like, well, then go to that guy.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, remember what was it, like 2 years ago when finger portraits were all the rage?
Yeah,
You see them anymore?
Well, you know,
what I mean?
it's funny you bring that up
Yeah.
because the Honest Tattooer just did a thing where one of the cats got tattooed by Anil Gupta on his finger, and they showed the tattoo 9 years later, and it you know, it's a finger tattoo.
Yeah.
It looked better than most.
It's good enough.
It looked better
Yeah.
than most, and you know, and I'm pretty certain that Anil did not charge what somebody who's in the city as well probably would have charged. I mean, we've seen, you know, movie stars and actresses and models with fucking finger portraits and stuff, and we all know that looks like dog shit most of the time. You know, I'm not going to say it's for everybody, or everybody's piece is going to turn to shit.
Well, that's the problem, though, right? That's the inherent problem is that one person.
Well,
that it
the
works
worst
out
part
in.
is you don't ever get to see that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I remember being in. We're getting off track, but whatever.
Yeah.
But now we're just talking shit.
Yeah, of course.
Ralph's story is completed. Now we're just talking shit. But I remember being at the London, the London convention, and running into a photographer from the States, and him being really upset by having seen a couple of pieces from a particular artist, and I was like, "What pieces were they?" And I couldn't help myself. I was like, "The fucking,
Yeah, of course.
the Long Island Yente piece is like, who was it? Like, who was it?" And he's telling me, and he's just like, he goes, like, "Do you have photos of it?" And he goes, "Yeah, I took photos of it." And I'm like, "Bring it, let's see it." You know. So he pulls up his camera and he shows me the pictures, and I'm like, "Dude, you need to get these out there." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "This is what people need to see.
100%.
This is exactly what people need to see. They need to see what happens to these oversaturated, fucked with photographs that people are." And this is granted, this is going back many years ago. This is when the oversaturation and people were photoshopping and all kinds of silly shit.
Also, more magazines too. Everybody was fucking when the internet wasn't big, and it's like
Well, this was at the
Savage
beginning.
Magazine
This
or
is
something
kind
like
of the
that.
beginning of all that.
Yeah.
This was the beginning of all that. And he was like, "I can't do that." And I get it. I mean, you have to be the one that is willing to go to the wall. Like, in order to be that person, you have got to be willing to say, "Fuck it. I'm bringing everybody down with me."
Yeah, of
because
course.
I'm going to let everybody
But there
see
also are
this.
people who are totally fucking cool. People letting them see the tattoos from 20 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I was trying this style, or I was using powdered pigments, or I was, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, shit's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not, you know, machines are pretty fucking similar. Even the rotaries. I mean, granted, the fucking dildo machines look a little bit different. You know, but like, you know, it's the pigments, it's the needles. That's what's really changed. The formations that they use.
A bit,
You know,
a
like,
bit.
I mean, but like guys like Jack Rudy, for instance, like they were literally creating needles to do what they did.
Well,
you want to
it's-
talk about fine line stuff.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
when you think how the whole whip shaded stipple thing is coming back, and that's pretty much single needle from back in the day.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So you could, and not for nothing from that perspective, you could look at tattoos that Jack did 30 years ago and see what they look like today, and know that technically, with the exception of maybe the size in which those tattoos are being done today, but you are going to know that if it's done properly, all that stippling is going to turn to a nice gray.
It's supposed to soften.
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful about black and gray. Things soften over time. Colors kind of fade over time, depending on how you take care of them.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You
I've
know?
had people call me out on some of the colors, like certain tattoos that I've posted from 20 years ago.
Yeah, but what were you using back then?
All powders. Back in the day, it was all
It's so
powders.
different.
No,
you know?
but
I mean,
dude, I'm happy with the way some of. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they look like they did the day they were done, and they aged weird. I think black and gray tends to age, and that's again, it really depends. I mean, I've seen black and gray turn black.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? So
or turn to nothing.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
where looking back and listening to what other people have to say really pays off in a younger person's
Well, it's
generation.
technique. It's everything technique. Like if we want to get on the fine line subject, I don't understand this whole. I mean, how many fucking close-up videos I've seen of this? This is how I do fine line, and it's this.
Oh, yeah.
You're building it. No, just fucking drag the line, dude. Get your depth right.
It's
you know what I mean.
Again,
it drives
this
me nuts.
is this is where it would be wonderful to see healed tattoos, because when you watch the way certain people tattoo, and when someone's dragging a line this long and it's literally and you're like,
Yeah, stop
what are you
beating
doing?
that person up?
not even beating them up.
Yeah.
Every time that needle goes in and out of the skin, it goes in at a slightly different depth, or changes the depth of the last time that you went in. So it's one of those, and again, may sound like an old man here talking, but it's the fucking truth. And that is one of those things that you don't notice for 5 fucking years. And that comes back, and it's just like, what happened to my lines?
Yeah, how come I got this single needle tattoo and it looks like a fucking, a 9-liner did it, right? Whatever, right? Getting technical, but then go look at guys like Jack. Fine line's not bad, guys. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain people right now who are crushing it. I pay attention to a few people on Instagram, and I look at them like, oh my God, beautiful. And I'm looking at other people that my friends have gone to or whatever, and they come back and the tattoo's 12 shades lighter, and like, what the fuck happened? I'm like, well, because they didn't do it right. You know what I mean? Like we use like people are like, Rob, do you do fine line? I'm like, yeah. Go look at the pinup girl's face I did 2 weeks ago. The head that was this big. Look at the eyes and the lips. There's fine line for you. The rest of it might not be like that, but if you don't know everything, it's a totally different circumstance. But nowadays people are just putting themselves on one level. All I do is this. All I do is that. And it's just kind of like, it's like you could specialize, but use every technique like we were talking about with the apprenticeships to make that look right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Fine line is fine when it's done properly. And if you're using a single needle nowadays, what the fuck are you doing? You don't even need it anymore.
Well, I think the idea of certain equipment, I think the way, from that perspective, I will say, like with cartridges and with even needles on the bar for the mass-produced stuff, I would never say it was better than... If certain people were good at making needles, they were good at making needles. Yeah. So to say that the quality of that stuff has gotten better, I think would be a lie.
I think it's mostly the mass production of it. You know what I mean? It's just like the mass-produced shit is just, on a whole, more consistent than it ever was. Back in the day, you went to Pulse, you knew where they were doing everything right. Right, not that they're not doing it right now, but there's 9,000 other businesses to compete with, even Mithra, places like that. But how many times I've ordered stuff off Amazon when I'm in a pinch and I get it in the mail? I'm like, holy shit, it's the same fucking thing.
Dude,
packaged
yeah,
differently.
1 or 2 people in my shop buy some Amazon, and at first it bothered the shit out of me because I complain about all these young kids getting gear on the web, on the internet, and it's just like, what the fuck? But then I see the stuff coming in, and I'm like, how much did that box of needles cost you? And he's telling me, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say. And I've had a bar needles or whatever, and I'm just be like, yeah, they're fucking solid shit. It's good.
Insane.
Because the same thing could be said. Most of these companies that are making these rotary machines that are have now needle companies that are located in the States, or doing some kind of glide or some kind of skin shit, whatever. A lot of this stuff is all being manufactured over in China. It's all being manufactured by 2 or 3 of the fucking same factories, just different levels
and different
on
packaging.
What you want to pay.
It's just different packaging.
A lot of it is not
packaging.
packaging.
I've had that happen where I pulled the same thing and I had 2 different pieces of packaging. Yeah. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
And that's...
And you can... I would hazard to say that you can say that when it comes to the quality of equipment, more leaps and bounds have been made in probably the last 8 years. Than in the fucking 50 years of tattooing. Because for a time, like powder pigments, you can say what you will about powder pigments, but like I said, I could show you yellows and blues that I put in the skin almost 30 years ago, and they're fucking in there.
Yeah,
you know
of course.
Where a lot of stuff today, Starbright, we used to go through it with their yellows and oranges. Sometimes you get a good batch, sometimes you don't get a good batch.
Yellow and the white, I remember. It was like canary yellow you buy from Starbright. And it was like Kurosumi and all that stuff back in the day, too. And what was it? Talons, literally using stuff that's meant to be...
Well, Talons is technically just a black ink, a carbon black ink that, again, if as long as you're not... And this is where we run into what we're going through now. And again, this is a layman's version of this, but... A lot of the pigments that we use today are safe. They were always safe. They've never been unsafe, with the exception of like heavy metals and shit like that, because individuals were getting pigments they knew nothing about. And that goes deeper than what I just said, but whatever. A lot of what we're running into now is the fact that pigments are getting more outrageous, colors are getting more outrageous, so therefore they have to change the way pigments are made, or bringing pigments in that, but all those pigments are for the most part encompassed in something that, anything that's harmful is encompassed in something that's inert. Yeah. The problem comes when someone gets lasered. You know what I mean? And then that inert fucking particle pops, and then all the bad stuff comes out. And now that's why I think part of the reason that government is giving everybody shit, and we're going through all this crap.
In
but
Europe, it happened hard.
But yeah, exactly. But if everybody was told, like, hey man, get lasered at your own fucking risk, laser surgeons lose their fucking minds because you can't say that. We should be able to run a business. Yeah, but if what you're doing is dangerous, then why would you tell anybody that? Well, then you shouldn't be able to use that. Oh, we shouldn't be able to use a pigment that's been around for over 100 fucking years.
Yeah, no one had any problem
That makes
with it.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, and also most of the bad cases with it are so finite. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, out of the 100,000 people, 10 people.
Yeah,
had
but
a
when
little
it
bit of
comes,
problem with something.
but here's the problem: when it comes to big business, dude, it only takes one. It only
100%.
takes one thing for them to put on that fucking table and say, "Oh, look what happened." Yeah, out of 1,000, 10,000 people, one person got sick because of whatever. Like, but that's all that matters when big business comes in, because their lawyers are going to stomp all over that. We don't have lobbyists in this industry.
No.
That they're going to go to the table for us. Those guys do though, and I don't think you can. So that's a whole nother fucking bag of shit.
Well, I mean, it's the whole union-based, non-union-based thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and people have tried. I mean, I know people have tried. Who tried to do it? A couple people tried to do unions.
There's a bunch of stuff that's going to be coming down the pipe in the next. There's a bunch of stuff that's going to be coming down the pipe in the next probably. I would. Well, I know for a fact that in Europe, Alex DePasse and a bunch of other people, and I hope I'm not going to say anything more than that. But I know Alex is working on something very similar to this.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we had the APT. Which does still exist, and the APT has been tried. The older generation and the newer generation of APT has been trying to get more involved in or play more of an active role in this kind of stuff. Mario Barth is still an independent. Him and Damien down in Delaware are still pushing against big business and trying to create laws that we can all live with. That it's not just the corporations that are making all the fucking money on it, or telling us how we have to do
and
things.
They've nabbed everything. I mean, that's really what it is right now. I mean, outside of the few, I mean, I try to buy from the companies I've been buying from forever, but like, how do you stay away from the Amazon? How do you stay away from?
I have managed to.
Companies?
I will admit, I've managed to stay away from Amazon probably 98%. Like,
I pinch, man. It's so easy to.
No, I get it, but we also have Pulse Tattoo Supply right up the road.
I mean, you're lucky. I used to go there all the time.
Yeah,
but I mean, I had a stencil machine broke. I bought a new one on Amazon. It was there in one day.
Oh, yeah, I know,
they're
that's true.
Keeping them in stock enough to where it's 1 day shipping for me.
Yeah,
thank you and it worked great until I got my other one in.
So when I purchased the mini printers, like the Brother printers, so I bought one of the Brother printers for on the road, and that I bought from what's the big camera company out of Brooklyn? Out of
oh my god, the one with the commercial.
Yeah, what the hell is the name of it? Something Brother, I don't remember. But I bought it all from there. And because at that time, there weren't a lot of people doing knockoffs at that time, you know. So I think I spent like $1,200 for this stuff, right? Or $1,400. It was expensive. But I was on the road in Europe for like, over the course of 3 months or 4 months, I was there 6 times. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I want this. I'm now using an iPad. This is years ago. And it saved my ass. To be able to sit in your booth and make your own stencils up without having to go on some crazy line in Europe. Or worse, they didn't even have stencil makers because everybody drew everything, you know. So
it was. Show once.
It was exactly. Yeah. It was a really nice thing to have. But now those things are a dime a dozen. Everybody's selling stuff like that. So
there's not even that Amazon big companies for it. Like I don't know which one I have there, but there's like 3 stencil machines out there.
Yeah.
And then what, you're gonna get an old one that one guy in Brooklyn who's 95 years old knows how to fix. You know what I mean? He's training his nephew in, you know what I mean? Like,
here's the thing with that. So I'm going to tell you, go fuck yourself on this. I bought a Thermofax, old school Thermofax, back in.
They are the best ones.
I bought one in 1999, just before I moved up to New Hampshire to work with Corey Kruger. I had that Thermofax for the few years that we did, that I worked with them. When I went to Darkside for 1 year, I worked with their Thermofax. When we opened up Hope in 2003, we had that Thermofax. That Thermofax worked tremendously.
It's by far the best one.
15
it's just
solid
it breaks. Years. Good luck.
Well, no.
Yeah.
No. So 15 solid years. That machine is incredible. In the interim, I think 10 years in, I bought a second one. Managed to find one. It was available. I took it. Paid $1,500 for it.
Yeah.
Sat on it. 5 years after that, 15 years in, this first one, the belt went on it. You're right. I had to send it out. But dude, that gets sent out. Guy fixes it. I think he still charged me $1,000 for it. But the fact is that Thermofax is now going on 25 years.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And it's only been fixed once.
I won't say the fucking company. It's set on fire.
Is it one of the little black box ones?
No, it was a decent sized Thermovac. It's a big company. I mean, I fucking come into work one day. I'm like, Corey, what the hell did you do? Corey's the guy who works for me. He's amazing. He didn't do anything. I turned the machine on. It's smoking. I said, Corey, I've had this machine for 3 years. He's like, yeah, I don't know what the hell happened. He's like, I didn't do anything. I made a sense, so it worked fine. Smoking. So then thank God for Amazon, because a day later I had the other one in. And the one I have now is a lot better. That one always kind of had problems. And who the fuck, when you send it out, you probably have another one.
Well, so now I eventually bought, so I have 2 big ones. Yeah. That one just sits in a box as my backup. But the other one, like I said, I had it refurbished.
And were they from the 60s, 50s?
Yeah, literally. But I mean, my point being is it's like coil machines. They technically don't go bad.
No.
They can break, yeah, but it may take 15, 20 years before they fucking break. There are shops. Like, I'm getting ready to go to the Jack Rudy. They're doing the Good Time Charlie. I would love to see how old the fucking Thermofax of that place is. You know what I mean? Because I would imagine...
It's the Thermofax.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Thermofax, you know? But that's a legitimate thing. I mean, these things don't go bad, man.
No,
if they're that's why shops, man, like when apprentices and some douchebag who works for you cuts it out wrong, doesn't put it in the plastic, and it fucking gets hung up. Yeah, there's gonna be hell to pay. Yeah. There's gonna be hell to pay.
Oh god, I've melted how many fucking carrier sheets in that thing, and then I gotta clean.
Again, with our shop, dude, there's 8 tattooers, and thank goodness. Is this real wood? I don't even know.
Wood, yeah. Paid enough money for this shit.
But thank goodness it's where everybody's respectful to the equipment.
See, you know what I always wish with the Connecticut shop, and I know you fucking 1,000% agree with me on this. I without even knowing your answer, I know the answer. That shop without rooms would have been so amazing.
I agree wholeheartedly.
If it was just this giant, was it 2,500 square feet?
It was technically 1,800 square feet.
I mean, but then you built the.
It was like oh, you're talking about the.
But I'm just saying,
the one we're at now.
Just had no rooms, and it was that big open space. I mean, because half the reason I brought Corey in here is I was lonely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking weird. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm 4 years old. I was fucking lonely. I needed a friend. You know what I mean? Like,
you were that guy. Like every day, it would be like fucking Always Sunny in Philadelphia or How I Met Your Mom. The fucking blasting through the fucking shop coming out of your room. And then you and your clients like back and fucking forth, and to the point where I found it comical. But I know guys in the shop were just like,
"Oh yeah, I mean, I'm very well aware."
Fucking Ralph.
Yeah, I mean, Tiff got a kick out of it, but yeah, I'm a fucking chatterbox, man. I mean, and that's how you keep people coming back. I mean, like, I came to you for years. I mean, it was fun. When did tattooing stop? Not that it's not fun anymore, but when did it become, like, even in this shop, like, I created it so that it can be communal and people come in here, their friends come in.
Yeah, the other guy's sitting, he's six feet away.
I mean, people are like, you should do a podcast. I'm like, we cancel in about 5 minutes if we do a podcast. But, like, it was a communal environment. It was, you went to conventions, not so much to tattoo. You went to conventions to hang out with your boys. Yeah. And it was this communal thing that was this subculture. I mean, everyone thought it was bikers and drug addicts back in the day, right? But really, it was a bunch of fucking nerds and artists that were getting together, and we're just having a great time talking about like the stuff that we were all into.
You know when it changed?
Fucking cell phones.
Because it no longer was about me and you commuting. It was about me finding you online. I can reach out to you via text or email. We can converse without ever actually having met. And then it's the moment that you're in the chair, that's where that whole thing happens. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have a pair of headphones on. There's still a time where people wear headphones the whole time they're tattooing their client. So it literally, I don't think there was any one moment, but I think it was generations slowly degenerating into themselves, into their phones, to the point where they don't need this. All they need is this to keep their fucking brain busy.
I want to have fun. I want to learn about every client who's in the chair. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some clients who fucking are terrible. Of course there is, but it's any industry, right? Like, we're a service industry. There's going to be people who are fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And there's going to be those people that you look forward to their appointment for 3 weeks because you know they're coming in.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I got my buddy Ryan coming in. And I'm thinking of a specific guy. He's 6'9". He's let me tattoo him everywhere. I mean, this kid's made me so much money I don't even know where to start. You know, but Ryan's coming in. I'm going to have a great day. I care less if Ryan's getting a fucking tribal back tramp stamp. You know, I'd rather tattoo him than, you know, someone who's getting Batman that, like, just wants to put their headphones on, get in their phone, and just shut the fuck up.
Well,
you know?
I mean, I've often told, like, people have asked me a million times, like, what's your favorite tattoo?
You took the TV out of your room, too.
I never had a TV in my room.
You had a TV in your room when I first started getting tattooed. I watched Shaun of the Dead in your room while we were getting tattooed.
No, I've never had a TV in my room.
And at the old shop.
No.
You the little one.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
For 1 year.
Yeah.
For 1 year I had a TV.
Because I remember that's why
that's why I got rid of it, because I don't like that. I mean, I want to be able to talk. And I'm also bad, too, when it comes to, like, well, if there was a TV there, I'd have a hard time keeping if we go to a restaurant, I have to keep my back to the television because I can't. For the longest time, my wife and I never had a TV. For like, I think it was like a good 8 years, 10 years.
Really?
We did not have a TV. We'd watch movies.
Yeah.
We'd put in a movie. That was it.
Yeah.
But the TV's just never on in our house, just because it's on when we're sitting in front of it to watch something. But if we're eating dinner or whatever, you don't have a TV. We don't have a TV in our kitchen. You know, like the kitchen's to eat or to entertain. That's why Italians we end up in the kitchen.
Well, it's supposed to, but that's what it was. Community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We talked about this already. Tattoo shops, be friends with each other. Tattoo artists, be friends with each other. Bring it all fucking together. Everyone should eat. You know what I mean? Like literally, like right across town, I could spit to this girl's tattoo shop. You know how many people I send her? Hey, Corey, you can't do it? I can't do it? You know, go to Gianna. Go to Gianna, the other Gianna that works there. You know what I mean? Go to like any of the other people that are there because we flash back and forth. Corey just did a cover up last week that was referred by them, and it was a big piece. He's got like 4 sessions out of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just when did it stop being that? And I remember when I was a kid, I was 15, 14 years old. It was Savage Magazine. It was Tattoo Magazine. It was like that's how I knew what people were doing. It wasn't the internet. It wasn't anything else. It was waiting that 1 month to get that magazine in my hand so I could see what people in Spain were doing.
But the problem being, I mean, I get it. We're beyond that now because the industry crazy. Is so tremendous and so big right now that I understand we can't go back to that. I have often said that it should still exist. I love the fact that Tony Ciavaro started his Skin Paper Paint magazine for the intent purposes of having a physical something that can be flipped through and be left on a shelf and create conversation later on down the line. I love the fact that he's done that, and I wish more people would go down that road and follow suit, because the fact of the matter is, even the young guys, it's not just the old heads, and I don't even know when that fucking phrase, the old head, go fuck yourself.
I mean, people consider me young. I'm 18 years in, I'm young still.
But my point being is, it's like, I wish someone would bring that back, because there are people out there that still crave to have that. You know what I mean? They want that tactile feel of something in their hands. But I get it. Like, you can't have that as being the only form of advertisement or social media in this business because of how gigantic this has all gotten. I just wish there was something that was more geared towards people wanting to see art and not geared towards, you know, tits and ass one day, food next. Here's a tattoo to fucking keep you, you know, you're appeased.
To keep you looking.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, that aggravates me because I don't think it's, you can say it's an algorithm that's based on me as an individual, but by the same token, there's a lot of things I just simply don't want to fucking see.
Most of my algorithms are things I hate. We were talking about this before. What is it? Rage bait. You know, that's what gets people engaged nowadays.
Yeah.
It's saying something controversial to piss everybody the fuck off so you can get 2,000 comments.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact of the matter is, you know what's so fucked up about this? I mean, I'm 39 years old. Me and you are great friends. There's so much common ground. You know, with people who are really trying to fucking be in this industry, create dope work, and the people who've been doing it for a while, you guys talk to each other, I guarantee you, things are going to be so mutual in ways you wouldn't expect. You're going to disagree. Of course, everyone does, right? Yeah. You know, but if you fucking come together, it's so much fun. That's what conventions were. Conventions were a time for old and new to come together, exchange fucking ideas, and have a great time.
Right.
You know, oh my God, I just lost, I just entered a black and gray tattoo and Bob Terrell beat me. How cool is fucking that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I lost. You know what I mean? But it's awesome because Bob beat me.
Yeah.
And I was up there with him. You know, it's just, like tattooing to me was just fun, and it was late nights, and it was
Again,
out
it's a
with
different.
wad of cash,
I think it's just a different. It's become very generational, and the fact is, we don't live. We didn't grow. I mean, I grew up without the internet. The internet didn't exist until I was in my fucking mid-20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you wanted to talk to somebody, if you wanted to meet somebody, if you wanted to get tattooed by them, you wrote them a letter, made a fucking phone call, or literally physically went to their shop. And again, I get. Would I say that was a better way of doing it? A little.
Well, it's personal connection.
Yeah, because I mean, when I met Philip Blue, it wasn't via text. It was going to the shop and getting to meet him. It was amazing, and that was at a convention the first time.
You know what's funny enough is when Corey contacted me, and he was leaving his old shop, and I said this many times. It was really funny. Like my friend Tom, who's a very good friend of ours, we both tattoo him. He would always go to me, "Would you ever have someone work here with you?" And I was like, I really built that station for like if you wanted to come up, or if someone else did. But I would hire Corey. And he was like, "Well, why don't you do it?" I was like, "Well, because I'm not going to poach him." And then all of a sudden, like 2 years later, Corey's contacting me.
Right.
And the first time me and Corey met, he drove here. I mean, I knew him for a while, but we were acquaintances at the tattoo shop. Like, I was moving out, he was coming in, and he was about to apprentice, I was leaving, right? And, he came in, and it was this dialogue. And, like, I knew certain things I wanted to see from him. And the minute he did those certain things, well, we talked and we had a great time, and I realized this is a guy I can sit next to, right? It's just kind of like the room that you have in the tattoo shop. Jimmy comes in there, you guys are bullshitting.
That was the whole point of that
Tom comes in there, you guys are bullshitting. I mean, it's such a fun atmosphere in that room. This is such a communal thing, and I think that's what's been lost. The tattoo is a community. It's not an online presence. It's not TV shows. I mean, we've both done them. It's not even magazines. It's getting around the people who think like you, or maybe don't, right? Like, there's people that come on who are kind of like, well, I do things different. I'm like, tell me I do them different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to know.
Well,
if you're doing something better than me,
yeah,
I want to do that.
You've been in our shop. I mean, we all tattoo like tattooers.
Very differently.
But everybody tattoos differently. So I think what we've lost is that we've been around each other for so fucking long, nobody fucking cares anymore. Like, we still look.
You still go room to room.
I still go room to room because
to
to me it's important that I see what everybody's doing and to see if they've made little nuances or changes, because those are things I'm going to see.
But also there's also fun things like if you would come into my room and be like, I like that. And then you'd walk out, and I go to my client, I'd be like, "Do you realize this is the best tattoo I've done in like 6 months?" And they'd be like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Joe doesn't do that." And then if Eric comes into your fucking room, forget about it. It's the best tattoo you've done in your whole career.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Like, I would love to talk about Eric, because to me, he's, he was the hottest thing fucking ever.
Yeah.
And to me, he still is, because I watched that motherfucker work for 6 years, hand on, his line work, his saturation. Eric, make a goddamn Instagram, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry to say it like that, but like, people always be like, "What was the best part about Connecticut?" I'd be like, "Well, Joe, because like, he's like a brother to me. Maybe like a little bit of a dad. I won't do what Tiff does." And then like Eric, I walked into his room. I was like, "What the fuck, man? Like, you're just quietly doing this shit." You know what I mean? That was what was fun about that shop, and that's why if it was open.
You get that every day.
100%.
I think the problem... So when we moved from downtown to where we are now, my intention was to keep it a big open space.
Yeah.
Those guys all came from Darkside, and Darkside was a big open space. And they were like, we're not going back to that. Like, it was straight up like, we are not going back to that.
Make people happy.
Fuck that. My biggest regret was not building a bullpen style shop.
Oh, like doing like a front end, maybe?
With separate booths for those guys to work in. That's probably my biggest regret.
Like in here, I mean, it's not big, but like I know tattoo shops that got 5 guys in a space this big.
Oh, dude, I was just out at Chris Garver's place, out in New York, and
it's just packed.
I swear to God, I mean, it's bigger than this. It's definitely bigger than this.
Yeah.
But just, and he's got, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I think there were 5 stations in probably an area about the... No, you know what? It might have actually been...
If you just took out the front counter.
And maybe even a little bit narrower. But yeah, it was
well, that's tight. What tattoo shops used to be. They used to be...
Well, when I worked at Cliff's, I think Cliff's, the room that we worked in was narrower than this. and there was 5 of us working in that.
I mean,
room.
and for me, like, I would take on one more, but I would need someone who's got. I can't build you. You know, I get enough emails, I throw them all at Corey. I get even DMs, I throw at Corey. But I would I'd probably get rid of this front counter and then like put another person in the front, which I'd probably put me there just so they don't have to be dealing with clients all day. Yeah. But like, you know, that's what tattoo shops were. Tattoo shops were this fucking, like, kind of, like, moderately sketchy, but, like, you wanted to be there type of place.
Well, again, it was
intimidating.
Yeah, it was about breaking down boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And getting over hurdles of your own. I've often said, like, the worst things that happened to you in shops back in the day that you weren't unaware of being there, but you experienced them was it was a learning experience. Again, I'm not saying it's always a healthy learning experience.
No, definitely not.
But it is an experience that you'll never forget, and you know never to do that again, or never to find yourself in that situation again.
I mean, and then most of the time it was fun. It was like I used to hang out in tattoo shops. A buddy of mine who works about 25 minutes up from us, he inherited his tattoo shop at a very young age from his father. His father went out west or whatever it was and started raising pit bulls or some shit. But this kid was tattooing at 15. And, like, we were in there. I was, like, 17. I'm in there. I'm watching this 15-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, he's my age. He's tattooing. And he has this shop. And it was just crazy atmosphere. People in and out, in and out. And it was just different people. Because no one who wants tattoos is the same, you know?
Right. I don't even remember what the hell we were at. Where did we just leave off?
God, I don't know. We've had a couple.
You were talking about camaraderie.
Today. Yeah, but that's... The whole industry was all about a communal type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, remember we used to go to Paradise? How much fun that was.
Dude,
you know?
Shows are still like that to a degree. You know, what you were saying before about old generations and new generations. When I did, and I've probably told this story here, you know, when I did the Detroit show many years ago, Jimmy and he went out to dinner late. I stayed in, and it was like 11:30 at night in the bar in Detroit. And this was like year 19, I think. And, we're all hanging out, and I went down there by myself. Jimmy's off, so I'm literally by myself, and I don't recognize many people in the bar. In the bar, a lot of the younger tattooers are off on their own. A lot of the older tattooers are not there. A lot of regular people in the bar, you know. So what ended up happening was I knew that Teresa Sharp and Kelly Doty were upstairs.
Oh yeah, Teresa.
So I called Kelly, Teresa, and I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Why don't you come downstairs? Because I'm by myself." And to their credit, they did. And the moment they hung out with me, all the other younger kids started coming up. You know, when I say younger kids, I'm talking like Megan G. Morris, fucking Timmy B, like, you know, people that aren't that young, you know, but granted, this is also many years ago. But all I remember is like, what the fuck? Like, not one person would talk to me before I was around other younger people.
There's an intimidation factor there. You know, we're about to eat a bunch. You know, I think that the younger cats are, you know, more inclined to hang out with who they know. When it's like, dude, pick brains. You know, let's go all the way fucking back to what we were talking about when I was in college. You know, Tom Woodruff, who's one of the most prolific artists I've ever met, he fucking pulled me in. He didn't treat me like I was different. He didn't treat me like I was this, like, underling, right? He treated me like I was an artist. And that's what we all are when we break it down, right? Yeah. You know, and the tattoo industry has exploded because there's so many fucking people who are artists, but it's goddamn hard to make money at it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to be a fine artist? Good luck. You want to sell a painting for 10 grand? You're not going to do it. Not that you're not going to do it, but there's select people who are going to do it, right? And, like, you do tattoos, you can pull a G a day. You know what I mean? And you can make a nice living for yourself if you're doing it right and you got the right clientele. But it's also like they figured out an industry that's popular that you can make money at being an artist, which is not easy. You know, my mother was a graphic designer for 20 years. She didn't want to make logos anymore. She didn't want to make letters interlocking.
Well, because there comes a point where you have to do what you got to do. I mean, that's I've often said this many times. How often do you go into work on a daily basis? And how often are you making art? And how often are you making money? And a lot of people got offended by that. Oh, my fucking tattoos are my art. I'm like, it's not the question that was asked.
But also, I mean,
it's not the way in which,
yeah. I mean, like, not for nothing. Like, I do a lot of portraits, and what the fuck am I doing, man? You know, you get to trace the photo. I did portraits in college. We weren't allowed to trace shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying like my artwork is solid. Like I'm not the best. I'm not the worst. I'm probably middle of the road. I make good relationships along the way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And my clients love me because like my clients are my friends or my family. They're some of them I keep it at arm's length, just like your family, right?
Yeah, you have
to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people you don't let in all the way.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like shut the fuck up. Half of you are copy machines. And and fucking Julio has the best tattoo ever and it says Tracer No Regrets. I know that tattoo like it's the back of my hand.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's okay.
But here's the problem. You get individuals that have gotten into this business thinking that, no, this is my art. This is how I create. This is how I express. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But to assume that me saying something like that is me saying, I don't appreciate this for the art. I mean, I do. I look at tattooing as it's art, but it's a tattoo. It needs to have a certain, for me personally, has to have a certain form and has to follow certain rules. Certain rules can be bent. Some can be straight up broken. But you take chances whenever you go down those roads. When I say stuff like that, it's not me telling you, oh, you're fucking bullshit because you're not a fucking artist, you're a tattooer. That's not the case. If that's what you consider, that's fine. But you need to consider the fact that's a great big world.
And also, like how insecure with yourself are you? That you.
Well, again, I don't even look at it as a generation that's being insecure. I think it's in a generation that honestly believes that that's how it's got to be.
Well, but you're talking about like outside of tattooing, like what I always call this the blue collar art.
It is.
It's very blue collar. Like the only person I know that maybe was more blue collar than me was one of my teachers in college, and he made 40-foot high sculptures. Right, pretty blue collar. Like he's welding, he's doing shit. Right, that's grunt work.
Right.
And also he had like 30 people doing it for him. Like, yeah, go do this. Right, but tattooing is like. You're dealing with a client. They're in pain. They might not love you because of what you're doing to them. They might love you afterwards, right. Not loving you during it. And then on top of that, it's kind of like, you're here and you're gone, and I got to go on to the next person.
Right.
Because, I have a mortgage to pay.
But but you've built up enough of a reputation, and they've got enough trust with this person that he's going to make that appointment to come back.
100%.
Which is the important
part. And return. That's this business. Yeah. It's not doing one tattoo, it's doing 7 on the same guy, or 20, or his whole fucking body, right? And it's also being a salesman. You know how many times I said to people when they're walking out the door, finish the sleeve, guy, I finished the sleeve right before he got here. Hey man, when you start feeling lopsided, one arm's going like this, the other arm's not. And he looks at me and goes, Ralph, I was thinking about this. And I'm like, well, let's do this, X, Y, and Z. Book the appointment.
Yeah.
You don't want it, we won't use it. They're going to use it.
That's the whole
and
point.
sometimes they won't, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not a big deposit guy. I do it for new clients. If you've been getting tattooed maybe for 15 years, I'm not asking you for a deposit, right? I know there's people who take 50% deposits. I know there's people who take all of it, right? Or they have day rates. That's the new thing, right?
Yeah.
Day rate, half day rate. Oh, I'm $2,500 for a full day. I'm $1,500 for a half day, right? But it's like, get to know your guy. Get to know your people.
I think that's something,
and pull it in.
I think that's something a lot of people forget. That not every client is going to be the exact same. Not every client can afford to dump $2,500 on a 6-hour day.
Who can? What I mean? Who really can?
Apparently, they're out there, man.
I mean, they're out there. They're in Manhattan. They're in.
Brooklyn, so that's
right?
That's another thing that I've had conversations with. A lot of it is location. Or you're in an area that is relatively cheap, but you're easy to. Most people from New York are flying in to see you. Because obviously you're so good that this is what I.
Well, and here's another fucked up thing, and I'm gonna fucking look right at the camera. If someone flies into goddamn see you and you cut their appointment short because you don't feel like it, fuck you. I mean, I'm sorry to say it. I've heard these stories 9,000 times over where I got clients who flew out to California and went and got tattooed by whoever, I'm not going to say names, and they're like, man, we're 3 hours in, but I'm done. It's like, hey, dude, I just spent all this money coming out to you. Treat the people properly.
Yeah, right.
You might be popular, you might be big dick, you might be swinging it around, but these people come to you because they care about what you do, right. And they're supporting you. In 10 years, you know what I mean? You're going to be lucky to have that person come back again.
But so that's a big deal. I was just talking to Eric about this the other day, is the fact that when we take a deposit, it's as much on us now to perform as it is as the client is for them to show up and perform by sitting well. You know what I mean? Because that's a two-way street. If money's exchanged where I'm taking your deposit, I'm just as much on the lam as you are. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it.
Of course, that's what it should be. Yeah.
I don't think everybody else does. You know what I mean? And again, this is where it's sometimes more of a job than it is an artist and your feelings. Like, if you're not feeling it, well, you better fucking figure it out, because that person just is paying good fucking money, man.
Yeah, they came
so
to
I
you for a
agree.
reason.
There's always going to be the exceptions: a death in the family.
Of course,
you're unwell, whatever.
Your client might die.
But yeah,
I mean, literally, you know what I mean. It happened to me recently. It was terrible. But it's just kind of like the clients are everything. We're in a service industry.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that. They think service industry, that they're like hotels and restaurants. No, this is.
Yeah.
People don't need this. They want this.
Yeah.
And you better make them want it. And you better make their experience worthwhile. Like for instance, me and Corey in here, people were cracking up. They're having fun. I mean, it's just, we want to make it fun for everybody.
Well, you want them to be excited to come into their next appointment.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they're looking forward to it. I know guys who are like, man, this is like, I go home, I got 4 kids and the wife and all this stuff.
I mean, dude, I've had guys come to my, they take a day off to come in to get tattooed, and they're just sitting there and you're talking and you're hanging out and you're good, and they're just like, dude, this is phenomenal. Like, I don't have my phone ringing. I'm not dealing with people I work with. I'm not, like, I am completely unplugged, and they are happy to just take the fucking day to do that.
I mean, that's tattooing. It's giving people fucking awesome work, even on your worst day.
Right.
And it's making people feel like they're home. Like, I built this tattoo shop specifically. I was like, I want you to feel like you're in my living room.
Right.
It's
like,
it's
like when people come into when people come into my room, they're blown away by how much shit's in the shop, just in my room.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, dude, this is me. This is who I am. I was like, some of the stuff is given to me by clients, but for the most part, this is who I am. So yeah, man, like, look at it, take it all in. That's the whole point. That's why there's stuff here.
Come, leave it a shirt, take a hat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like tell people that you had a great time. And it's just, people are so fixated on my style. This is me. This is my brand. Not that you shouldn't have a brand. I think that's a great way of going about this business. But it's like, your brand should cater to the people who come to you. It shouldn't just cater to yourself. It caters to the people you're trying to pull in.
I think there's something to be. I think the flip side of that from them would be, well, my brand attracts a certain type of person.
Yeah, but your brand's going to attract a certain type of person that's going to last for like 3 fucking years, and they're going to wonder where the tattoos are.
Or you end up getting the people that just do the one and done. You know what I mean?
That's what, like, I know people get souvenirs, right? I have this souvenir, that souvenir. I want the sleeve, I want the full back, I want the full body. I want you to go tell your grandchildren about me, whatever it is, right? Like, I'm literally tattooing people right now that I saw at 3 years old, and are like, oh, now I'm getting tattooed by you, and they just sent me 12 of their friends.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's word of mouth. It's grassroots type of fucking grounded shit.
Yeah.
Not that people aren't making money off the internet, but I'll tell you right now, you lay your roots and you build relationships with these people, you're never going to have to worry about eating ever again. Yeah. That's what it is, right? I mean, and people will finish projects, you never see them again. But there's going to be, for every person like that, there's going to be that guy who goes, my grandson wants to come in. My nephew wants to come in.
Yeah.
That's the people you want. And then they're so stoked to be getting tattoos by...
this guy who tattooed their grandfather or their dad or whatever.
It's just like, it's so fun for me now. Like, I see kids coming in, I'm like cheesing left and right. You know what I mean? Like, that's the people I wanted. I want you to have a great time. I want you to tell your friends about it. And then I want you to, make a video, do an Instagram, do a fucking, what is it, Twitter and whatever it is, right?
Twittering.
Yeah. I mean, what's the other one? Snapchat.
Yeah,
Snapchat me. You know what I mean? Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, you care? Like, I know tattoo artists, so we wouldn't let you take pictures.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I know one specifically. We both know. But, it's all about environment.
Yeah.
Because, like, think about it. Like, you walk into, like, any restaurant that you love. Half the time it's environment, right?
Oh, no, certainly. It's who's behind the bar, who's working with, who's waiting on you. It's who are the other clients in the restaurant that
you have great waiters. Do you have good service? Yeah. Do you have an owner who gives a fuck and is walking around? Yeah. Like, Corey's clients come in here all the time. I chat them up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless,
but that was always kind of an old carny thing too. It's like you always treated people 110%. You make them feel good when they come in. One of the guys I used to work with, this guy Joelson, used to make a comment about if someone came in with a shitty tattoo, you never told them to their face that they had a shitty tattoo.
They might love it.
And not only that, they're stuck with it. Like when someone comes in, what do you think of this tattoo? Oh yeah, it's cool with tattoo. It's good. Yeah, don't ever be like, oh, that's fucking shit.
No, I always say as much as, you never know if that person will love it or not.
Exactly.
I might look at it and go, oh my God. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's some tattoos I did back year 2, 3, 4, maybe even 10 that are not looking great right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's such a service industry, and I think that has been kind of fucked.
Yeah.
I think people are like, well, this is my art. It's not your art. It's their art. You're putting what you interpret that client wants on them.
Right.
As much as it's your art, it's theirs 10 times more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's, stop being so fucking self-absorbed. Let people have what they want within reason. You know what I mean?
But
Right?
again, I think we're going down that road where it's sometimes it really is just about what the client sees, what the actual artist produces, and then from there, it ain't the world we know.
No. Well, the internet fucked that up because everyone thinks they're an Ink Man.
All right, well, we're going back down these dark roads.
I mean, that's what everyone gets mad about, but that's what.
Is there anything?
Comments, right?
Is there anything else you want to touch on? I mean, we've been talking, and I would like to have a conversation like this again. But,
yeah, of course. I'll do this 20 times.
Is there anything else you want to?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot. You know, I mean,
we pretty much skimmed over the majority of
a little bit of everything,
career.
right?
Yeah.
But I think the main thing for me is come into the shop, talk to the people. If they don't treat you right, fuck them off. You know what I mean? Like, because like every tattoo shop is supposed to be a welcoming place, no matter how long you've been tattooing. You know what I mean? And it's community. You want to be part of this community? Come on in.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to what has been done before, and it was we doing now because of. What was done before hadn't been advanced to what we're doing now, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
You know what I mean? As much as people hate TV shows, the media both done, the internet, they hate all that stuff. But you know what? I don't have to wait for Savage Magazine to come out anymore. I can look what some guy's doing in Dubai.
Well,
right?
again,
Which is awesome.
And that's the joy of the world we live in today. And again, while in one sense I'm motherfucking it, the other sense, like, I get it. It's wonderful.
100%. But it's all about like go to your local tattoo shop, say hello. They want to talk to you. And if they don't, fuck them. Yeah. Because every time someone comes in that door, I'm happy about it. I'll talk to you. Corey will talk to you. You know, the artist will talk to you. Just make it a community again, which I think is what to me is disbanded. It's back in the day it was a subculture.
Yeah.
It was just awesome. Like every time I met, like when I was tattooing, like George Clooney, fucking whatever, Tara Reid, whoever was big back then, right? Like I met Bob Terrell. I met Robert Hernandez. I met you. You know what I mean? And then you introduced me to all these fucking wonderful people. Like, these people are awesome, and they want to talk to you, and they want to tell you their life experience. Get into that. If you're a new tattooer, go get tattooed by someone who's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, sit down, watch. Like, if you get tattooed by me, and like, you've been tattooing for 3 fucking years, or 2 years, whatever it is, 5 seconds, and you go, Ralph, how'd you do this? I'm going to tell you. I want to tell you. I want to have so much fun with you because the more questions you ask me, the more it reminds me of why I did it.
Right.
And to me, it's crazy. That's what you did for me. 21 years later, you know, like people watch me do color. Like, why do you do it like that? I'm like, because Joe does. You know what I mean? Like, I put my own spin on it. But, you know what I mean? Even Corey, who works here at me, he was big on Timmy B. And Timmy B is probably a lot of people we're talking about. He's the new school guru, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and Timmy's the man.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked to him a million times.
And he's a guy that you can sit down and have a great conversation with,
Yeah.
and he's very personable, and that's part of that whole experience like we were just talking about.
Well, we're artists. We're not rock stars.
Yeah. Well, again, that depends on who you talk to.
Well, 100%, right? Yeah, I mean, I've heard a couple of those. But it's like, you know, we're regular guys. Let's have fun. Let's make this industry fun again. Let's make it not about clout. Let's make it not about rage bait. We talked about that. Like, hey, you know, fuck Fine Line. No, not fuck Fine Line. We talk about Jack Rudy.
Yeah.
You know, he did amazing fine line tattoo.
I think
BJ Betts.
Yeah.
Talk about his lettering. He was single needling the fuck out of things, and it's dope. It's you know what I mean. Or what is it? It's I don't know what the word is.
Whatever the kids fire.
Whatever these kids are. Yeah, it's amazing, right? But like go to the people who've been doing it. Go to the people who haven't been doing it long, and let's bring it back together. I think about it all the time. Like me and Corey talk about it all the time. We're friends with people all around the area, and I'm friends with you, and I'm friends with every guy at your shop. And you know, you've introduced me to guys like Jimmy and you know Rodney, who you know have influenced every aspect of what I've done. And it's not to my detriment. It's maybe better.
Oh, most certainly. I think all these little things make people better.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's like old versus new. It's like no, it's not old versus new. It's about respecting both.
Well, I think that we live in a world where, and this is the thing that I find, is when somebody of my generation speaks out and says things the way they see it and the way they believe it is, the younger generation's idea of pushing back is to argue it or talk it down like it's irrelevant. And again, part of me understands that because I kind of had that mentality when I came into the business.
Very much like that. Yeah.
But I also grew up. I also came to the realization that the people before me did know better, and I may not do everything I seen, but I take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and before you know it, you end up as a complete human being on your own.
Well, I mean, it's true, and and people who have been doing it younger or older. I mean, there's people who are tattooing for a year, who are just crushing.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What has the internet done? It took me 3 years to be like, oh, that tattoo looks good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just talk to everyone, gather everything. You know what I mean? And don't be closed-minded. You know, it's such a fucking generic fucking bullshit thing to say. But it's just like everyone wants to make you better. It's the people who are half-assing it that you want to see go.
Well, I think, I think that there's a lot of people out there that when you speak your mind, they automatically assume that you're talking shit. And again, some people of today's generation, you know, they don't take personalities into consideration a lot of times. So yeah, so if I talk in a certain manner, people are going to going to look at it as if I'm attacking. Not my intention, but
also don't be so sensitive. You know, I know a lot of girls in this industry, for instance, and back in the day, it was very male-dominated, obviously, industry,
big time,
right?
yeah.
And Michelle, for instance, we talk about Daredevil, Fun City, or Teresa, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I met Teresa over 12 years ago, and this girl was fucking killing it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to fuck with her, you couldn't.
Yeah.
Because she's crushing you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to talk shit to her, she's going to laugh all the way to the bank and say, my shit looks better than yours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like anyone who's coming in right now, respect them because they might be up here when you're down here. You know, I mean, it's skill level. It's not about years anymore. It's about caring.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think that and that's exactly it. It's how much you really give a shit. But I get upset because I am an older generation guy. What upsets me is the fact that my idea of caring is being looked at as gatekeeping. You know, my idea of not embracing all the dumb shit that goes on today is being looked at as just being left behind or not understanding where things are. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, in our shop, I was one of the first people to start using disposable tubes. I was one of the first people to start using fucking rotary machines. Yeah. I'm the one that got everybody in my shop to use fucking rotaries.
Rotaries.
You were using coils up until you moved here, I think.
Yeah.
No,
I used them. I started using Bishops like later on in.
Yeah.
Name drop. Give me a free machine. But you know, but it's true. It's like the old guys aren't, and gals, right, or they, thems, whatever. They're not trying to hold shit from you. They just want you to do it the right way and become great.
But that's the thing is, it could be argued. What is the right way now? What is the right way?
You know what it is? It's like when I see stuff coming back to me and it's obviously trash, that's the wrong way. Well, you know, again, and I know people have been tattooing for 2 years who are lacing it. You know, it's just, it's like I'm looking at it going, what the fuck was I doing in 2 years? But it's just kind of like exchange ideas. That's what podcasts are about, right? That's what the social media is about.
Yeah.
Exchange ideas, because if you're not exchanging ideas, then you're in a fucking standstill, man.
Well, I don't think that's really that big of an issue now. I think that the idea of exchanging ideas isn't. I think that their idea of exchanging ideas is literally seeing it online and running with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, that works. I mean, the fact is, we live in a world where if you see it enough online, it's easy enough to pick up a machine and go for it.
100%.
I mean, we see this on a daily. So it's like, I get all that. And again, I'm not upset by it. You know what I mean? It is a bit, it can be a bit disheartening, but by the same token, it's not for me to,
you know what the thing is for me? It's, I mean, I've been tattooing for almost 18 years. It's more that I think that like the newer generation of tattooing is missing out. I like coming into tattoo shops and like, you know, like for me, it's that the old generation is missing out. The young generation is missing out because going into tattoo shops, conversing with these people, meeting these people, and doing these things, that's what was fun. You could think differently than that person, but they're telling you their concepts and how they did what they did. You don't have to do what they did. But to me, it's kind of like, that's the fun. Like when we look at Renaissance art, and I look at like how like Michelangelo created like the statue of David at 23 or 24, whatever he was. That motherfucker was 24, and he did that. Would you not want to talk to that fucking guy? You know what I mean? Like Guy Aitchison. This guy was doing biomechanical before half these people knew what it was. Bob Thoreau was doing black and gray realism before anyone knew what it was. Robert Hernandez was doing like this surrealist movement before anyone knew. Anil Gupta, which we talked about, was doing micro-realism before anyone knew what it was. Talk to these fucking guys. Or talk to people who learn from them or just look at their work. Like, we don't want to discourage you, and I'm saying I'm in 10 to 8 years. It's a decent amount of time, right? But like I'm like a baby in our industry, right? But like, don't discount what I say. Don't discount what they say. Absorb it. You're gonna get better. Yeah. You could be fucking making $500,000 a year, whatever. You talk to them, you're gonna fucking advance your thinking, and maybe not your art. Maybe you do what you do, but you're going to become part of a community. That's what it was. That's why conventions were so amazing. It was hanging out with my friends.
He just wants a hippie circle.
No, I don't want that.
Come up to New York for the.
I mean, I could say fuck you to everything. You know what I mean? But just have a good time, talk to the people, and make it awesome.
All right. On that note.
We talked for so long.
I want to thank Ralphie very much for this. Oh no, don't worry about it. No, it's okay. We're just finishing up.
We're just at the end.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in again. I want to thank Ralphie here for sitting in, and see you when I see you. Oh, but fucking like and subscribe, do all the fucking silly shit, and I'll see you when I see you.
That was a good one. Oh, we talked enough shit. We have a fine line artist yelling at us about it in a week. That was fun.